Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about how to start your perspective, your 2-point perspective city scene. And there's 3 things I'm going to talk about today. The first is I'm going to show you how to build your buildings. I'm going to show you how to have stuff, like I've got an awning right here. I'm going to show you how to build things out of your building, how to make things pop out, how to put windows, how to put stuff like that. And then the third thing is I'm going to show you how to put a sidewalk on here so that each block of the sidewalk looks like it's receding into space and getting smaller and smaller. And now remember, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're doing this assignment is they get this kind of stuff done where they've got their buildings drawn and they've got the basic form, and then they put a couple windows and they go, okay, well, that's cool, I'm done. But if you really take your time and I'll talk a little bit today about like how to do how to treat the surface of these buildings to make them look like they're made out of like building materials like brick or siding or concrete or stuff like that. How do you add those textures to make it look not so rigid, not so mechanical, but make it look a little bit more natural and a little bit more like a drawing rather than a draft or a drafting type drawing. So now remember, you're going to be watching this upside down. I will try to remember to flip my paper every so often so that you can get a view of what I'm seeing. But the first thing I have to do is I need a horizon line and I need my 2 vanishing points at either end. Now this paper is 12 inches wide. I am going to put my horizon line 7 inches from the top. So it's kind of, sort of towards the center, but it's not it's not right in the middle. The middle would be 6. So my horizon line is gonna be a little bit lower. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it look like people are looking at my city from above. All right, sorry about that. So I've got my horizon line drawn, and I'm going to put my vanishing point 1 and my vanishing point 2 on either ends of the paper. And now I've got my ruler and I've got my triangle. Now remember, this is a 45-degree angle. This is a 45-degree angle. This is a 90-degree angle right here. So that means if I line this edge up parallel to the edge of my paper, this edge, because of the 90-degree angle, this edge is perfectly perpendicular. So that's what I want to do. That's the line I want to use when I'm making these vertical edges, these vertical corners of my building. Because if it's crooked, like if the front edge of a building is kind of wonky, well, it's not going to look right at all. And it's not going to look like, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I wanted it to look that way, because it's not going to be something that you can pass off as being intentional. So, looking back at this, now I've got a horizon line, I've got my vanishing points on the drawing I'm doing now. This first line that I'm drawing is going to tell me where the front edge of my closest building is going to be. So if I want, I could put it right in the middle. I think for this, I'll put it a little bit off to the side. And the further down my paper I put it, the closer to the viewer it's going to look. And obviously, the higher up I go, the taller that building's going to be. So now I have my front edge. And I don't know if you can't see it. I can't see it when I'm looking at my computer screen. I don't know if you guys can see it from where you're sitting. But I have a horizon line here telling me where my 2 vanishing points are. So I've got my vanishing points, I've got my horizon line, and now I've got this line. Sorry, I had to pull a little piece of eraser off. So now that I have this front corner of my building, I need to take and go towards those two vanishing points. So I can use my ruler, or I can use my triangle for that, as long as my triangle is not quite long enough to go that way. So I'm going to use my ruler. And very lightly, I'm going to go in that direction. And then very lightly, I'm going to go in that direction. Because remember, a lot of these lines are going to be erased. But I need them in order to see, like in order to help me plan out what I'm doing, I need to be able to see these things. I need to see these construction lines. So very lightly, I've got those 4 lines now. I started with that one vertical line, and then from there I've got 4 lines branching off from that. Now I'm going to use that 90-degree angle trick that I was talking about. And I've got the front corner of this building. Now I've got to pick the back corner of each of those buildings. And I'll make it right here. And maybe right here. So now that I've got my building kind of drawn, I don't, this is going to be a solid form, so I have to erase the horizon line, because now I've just built a building in the way and I can't see the horizon line here anymore. So I'm going to erase that. And I'm also going to erase on the top here, I'm going to erase that top construction line, and I'm going to erase this top construction line. Now, I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, so I'm going to leave the bottom construction lines, because if I want to do like a city scene where, like if you've ever walked down like downtown Royal Oak, where there's small little shops and they're all kind of right next to each other, I can do that here. And these, so let me put a shop right next to this building. I'll put another building right next to here. I'll put a little alleyway, but I'll put it so that it looks like it's right next door to it, that it's not pushed back or it's not pulled forward. And what I'm going to do is, I have this construction line, so the bottom of my next building is going to be on that construction line. And let's see, I'm going to start it here, and maybe this building's just a little bit taller than the building next to it. So now what I'm going to do, before I move my ruler, so that's the front. This is the front face of the building. So now I'm going to decide, how big is the storefront. Maybe it's a bigger storefront. Maybe it's like a hardware store. And I don't know how tall I want to make this line yet. So I'm going to draw it real light, and I'm going to go to a distance that I know is too far. So now let's put the top of the front of the building. And I'm going to go from here back down to my vanishing point. So now I know how big this line should be. And then I can erase the rest of that. Now that looks good, but now I need to see the side of the building that's kind of down the alleyway. So I'm going to take the bottom corner here, And because it's going in that direction, because it's on this side, I have to go to this vanishing point. So if you imagine, so if I have a box, I don't know if you can't really see the corner of that. Oh well. So everything that's on this side is going to go to that vanishing point, and everything that's on that angle, and you have to be looking at this in three-dimensional space. Anything that's over here is going to be going to that vanishing point. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain that. So this is going to go towards this vanishing point, but then it's going to stop when it hits that top of that building, because that's where it goes behind. Okay? So now I'm going to erase the horizon line behind that building, because now I've built that a second building in the way, and I can't see any of that horizon line anymore. And I'll just take my pencil and kind of darken in those lines just a little bit. I don't want to commit to anything absolutely yet. So I had some people asking me if I want to build a building that looks like it's back and kind of behind. So not on the street front, but like a building behind. So here's what you have to do for that. So if this is a cube, right, because I haven't added any doors or windows yet, so it's really nothing more than just a big cube in the middle of my paper. This cube has 6 sides. Now, in this drawing, I can only see 2 of them, but I know that it also has 2 sides on the back, and then 1 side on the top and 1 side on the bottom. So there's 2 that I can see. There's 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom for 4, and then 5 and 6 are the back, like the opposite corner of this close corner to us. So what I have to do is I have to figure out very lightly where the back side of this building would be. So I'm going to put a little line just like that. Now when I draw my building behind this front building, I'm going to pick a spot that is above this line but below the horizon line. So it's got to be below the horizon line, because if it's not, your building is built in the sky. So I'm going to, and then if I go below this line, then that other building will be built inside of this building. So it has to be on the outside of the building but below the horizon line. So I'm going to pick a spot. Let's go right about here. So now this little dot that I'm making is the first corner of this back hidden building. So now that I found that, I don't need this line anymore. So that's where I'm going to build my third building. And again, I'm going to use that 90-degree angle trick. And I'm going to go up very lightly, but now where it emerges from behind my close building, I'm going to draw that line a little bit darker. And since it's a tall building, let's make it a big, tall office building. We'll go up. Now it looks like a antenna right now. But with this, just like with this and with this, I'm going to take and I'm going to make the 2 visible sides by taking this line to the vanishing point, to each vanishing point, twice. So I'm not going to draw until I get out from behind that first building. I'm going to use that 90-degree angle trick. And then this has to go to the vanishing point. little bit better of a eraser. There we go. I can clean this up. Get rid of that horizon line. I can get rid of this construction line. And then now I've got to take that and send it back to that vanishing point there. And I'm going to stop it right about there. I could have gone all the way back until it hit that building, but I thought that was too big. So I'm going to stop it short. I'll use my horizon line. And there we've got it. So now I'll flip this around so you can see I have my 3 buildings. So these 2 are right next to each other, very close up, and this one is kind of back behind. Maybe there's a parking lot in the front here and people can park in front of that building, and maybe these 2 you can only park on the street. So now I'm going to show you how to put a sidewalk and how to make that sidewalk look like it's going back into space. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extend that line. And that is going to be the front corner of my first sidewalk brick. So I'm going to go back into space there. I'm going to go back into space here. And then I'm also, actually I erased that construction line, but I shouldn't have, because it's going to be part of my sidewalk. So I'm going to flip this around and do this so that you can see, because I think I can do this upside down. So now this, I have to extend this line this way. And I have to extend this line this way. And now you can see that I have my first square. Now there's 2 different ways that you can build the sidewalk. I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to do one way going this way. I'm going to do one way going the other way. And you can decide which way works the best for you, and you can decide which one you like better. So now remember, we talked about if you need to find the center of a box or of a 4-cornered object, use a measuring device and make an X, and then wherever that X is, that's the absolute center of that shape. So here I've got my shape, which is my first block of my sidewalk. And I've gone corner to corner. I've drawn an X in that sidewalk square. So this is the center. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that middle. I'm going to take that center and I'm going to draw a line to the vanishing point. Now, I'm going to end up erasing this whole line. The only thing I'm going to use that line for is construction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the front corner, then I'm going to go to the back middle, and that will tell me where the top corner is of my next box. I'll show you. So front corner through the top middle, and then wherever it hits this line is going to be the back corner. So now that I have that point, I'm going to take that and I'm going to connect it to the vanishing point. Just like that. So that's my next block. That's my next sidewalk square. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I started here. I'm going to go one more block up. I'm going to go from the front through the middle, and it'll hit the back. And again, line it up with the far vanishing point over here. Draw the line. Same thing. Back, middle, or front, middle, back. To the vanishing point. And I would continue to do that. Now you're going to reach a point where your sidewalk blocks become too small and they're just going to get messy. At that point, stop doing them. So I can lock these in. And then to make it look a little bit three-dimensional, what I can do is I can kind of put an extra little line here, send that to the vanishing point, and then drop these. I should be using my 90-degree angle trick, but it's such a short line that I know I said don't eyeball, but I can get it. You could probably get away with it with that short of a line. And there I have a couple sidewalk blocks. So I'm going to show you the next technique on this side. And what this includes, this is such a cool trick. When I learned this, it kind of blew my mind. So I can take this line right here, where it's corner to corner horizontally in this block. And what I'm going to do is basically copy and paste it here. And that's going to tell me where the left corner is on this drawing. So to copy and paste it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this edge of my ruler up like that. Or I'm sorry, this is my triangle. I'm going to line this up with my triangle, align my triangle up with that line, and then I'm going to push my ruler up against this side of the triangle. So now, wherever I move this triangle on the paper, I can replicate this line. It will be on the same angle anywhere on my paper. So I want to put it right here. And there we go. So now this is the left corner of my next brick. and that one is going to go to this vanishing point. Just like that. So I'm going to do it again, and I could, I can't. Some people think that it's okay to take it from, like, everyone you draw, take it from that. I always want to go back to this original one, because if I'm slightly off on one of these, that mistake is just going to perpetuate or continue a mistake that I don't want to happen. So I'm going to go back to my original corner to corner line here, lock my ruler up against it, and now I'm going to slide to the third box, or the third sidewalk square, draw that line, make a mark, and now that is going to go back to the horizon line. So again, I can go through now, and cement never pours perfectly, so I'm just going to kind of freehand kind of darken those boxes, those sidewalk blocks in freehand, just to kind of give it like a little bit of a man-made kind of texture to it. All right. So there we go. Now I can go through and I can erase those construction lines, and I'll go back and, I mean, I would want to make my sidewalk go back further on both sides, but I just want to show you what happens when we clean these up, get rid of the construction lines, and you can see I'm just erasing over almost the whole thing. So I'm going to go back through now, and I can still see very faintly where I had put those lines originally. I'm just going to go back through and darken them in. Right, so there we have it. So how do I build? Let's put a door and a window on this front building. So when I put a door, sorry, I'm recording the time so that when I put the comments in, I can tell you what's happening when, so that if you just want to see a part of the video, you can go to that. So when you put a door, again, I'm going to use that 90-degree angle trick, and I don't want to have a door right on the corner, so I want to have it a little bit away, and I can pick arbitrarily, that means whatever. There's no specific size that I have to make my door. I just want to make it look right. I want to make it look like it's an actual door that can function and that people, even fat people, can walk through. So most doors are a standard size. So here's my door, and my door compared to my building is pretty tall. It's probably a little more than halfway. So that means that this building is probably a small building, maybe a little shoe shop or a little candle shop or something. But because doors are a standard size, I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to extend it all the way back. So now I've got a guideline here, and that is going to tell me how tall my door on this building is. And if I want to make sure that it's the same width, I will take this angle corner to corner and I will slide that over to this other door. And now that is how I ensure that my doors look like they're both the same height and they're both the same width. So now I can go through and I can, maybe I add a pull handle here. And again, I want the pull handle to be, you know what? I'm going to approximate it. So I'm just going to use my vanishing point just to kind of, so now my handle and my pull handle are at the same level. So, okay, let's do a window, or let's do a bank of windows. Now, setting up a bank of windows, if you want to do lettering, it's kind of the same. I'm not going to show you how to do lettering in this video because I've already done that. If you watch, if you go to my website and watch my other video on how to draw lettering in perspective or something like that, you can supplement this. So I'm just going to do a bank of windows here. Maybe they're those narrow windows, like those glass block windows. So that you can't really see out of them because they're too high, but they're high enough that they let a little bit of light in, a little natural light coming into my building. So that's going to be the top and the bottom of my window bank. Now, I'm just going to eyeball that. And I could have used the same technique that I used for the door to figure out the space in between, but I didn't. So now I'm going to break this up into 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4 little windows here. So I'm going to use that X technique where I mark an X corner to corner, and then that tells me where the middle is. And then, so there's my middle. And then I'll use my 90-degree angle trick and divide that in half. And then I'll do the X trick again for each of these. So an X and an X. And I'll use that 90-degree angle trick again. Line my ruler up with the bottom. And put a vertical line here. So now I have what appears to be 4 evenly spaced rectangles. Right here. So if I wanted to, I could turn these into letters and put the name of the business on here. But instead, I'm just going to do some like circular glass block kind of windows. Not circular, but kind of rounded, kind of like an organic kind of look. You get a little bit of texture to it. Maybe a little bit of reflection here. And there we go. And maybe take a little bit of shading and maybe kind of go around these make it look like they're locked in with mortar. And there we have it. So the next thing, maybe there's a sign, or maybe there's an awning over, let's put an awning over this door. So what we'll do is, in perspective, it's easiest if I start with a block or start with a rectangle and then kind of carve everything out of that rectangle. So what I'm going to start with is a rectangle against the wall here, just above, like a rectangle, like somebody spray painted a rectangle above the door. Let's do that. And I'm going to use my 90-degree angle trick. Let's go about that high. Alright, so now I've got a rectangle above the door. And actually, what I should do is, if I want it centered, I can still see the center of that door. So I'm going to draw a line right there. So that's where the middle of that awning should be. So we can check that by going corner to corner here. And then what we've got to do no, missed it. There we go. There we go. So I'll do that again because I kind of decided to measure it about halfway through. So I'm going to draw that center line. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw the front edge of that rectangle. Now from here, I'm going to lightly extend those lines to the vanishing point. And what I have to do is I have to make this, so this is the center point, and I'm kind of eyeballing it from top to bottom, but it's centered over the door. So I have to make that. So instead of figuring out where the center is, I'm going to go from the corner through the center, and that's going to tell me where that back edge is. And it seems off. Why? Was I off of my... Yep. So another thing that you need to keep in mind is that the closer you get to the vanishing point, the more important it is to be precise with your measurements. Like if, in this case, my pencil lead is a little bit thick, so it shifted my drawing enough where it made it wrong. So I just erased that because I had drawn it too dark, but I'm going to keep it there. So I've got this, which kind of looks like a sign over the top of this door. So the rectangle above this door here. So now I'm going to take these corners and I'm going to send them back to this vanishing point. All four corners. And now these are going to be like, it should look like they're bars that are sticking out from the building. You see that? So there's the rectangle that I drew. And then those are the bars that are sticking out. And they look like they're horizontal because they're so close to the horizon line, but actually they line up. If you line a ruler up, they actually recede all the way back to this vanishing point back here. So now I'm going to take my 90-degree angle and I'm going to box this in. So now I've got this square here is like the front edge of my awning. So I'm going to take this line, I'm going to take this corner and send it back, and I'm going to take this corner and send it back to that vanishing point. Oh, bummer. So there's a weird thing happening here, and I'm going to have to just let it be, where the corner of my awning actually perfectly lines up with the corner of my building. And sometimes that happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this awning, I'm going to make it like a triangle shape. So I'm just going to go corner to corner there. And I'm going to erase that. So now this is like underneath, and then that looks like an awning that's hanging over a doorway. And I would clean up the inside a little bit. Maybe I make some, I can use contour lines and stripes and stuff to kind of increase the effect of that. There we go. And that's how you make something stick off the building like that. So the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pause real quick. I'm going to sharpen my pencil, and I'm going to show you how to put like a siding, or I'll talk about how to put bricks, but I'll show you how to put siding, and it's the same thing. So I'm going to pause here, and I'll be back. Look how quick that was. So let's put some siding on here. So it's pretty easy to put siding. Actually, it's easier than doing this awning, because the siding is just picking a measurement and then taking, it's more work, but it's less thinking. So I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to line it up. Oh, that building's just about 7 inches tall. So I'm going to make a mark every 1/4 inch. I'm going to go all the way down. So now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've got little tiny marks all the way down at every 1/4 inch. And now all I have to do to make this look like siding is I'm going to take each one of those and I'm going to connect it to the vanishing point. Now I take my pencil down here and I use my pencil as a pivot point. So I put my pencil, rotate my straight edge, and then go back up. Got carpal tunnel, my hands are starting to go numb. It's already starting to look kind of cool. Shake them out. Oh man. Can't wait to go home. What time is it? It's like 4:30. Mr. Forrester's still here. He's having trouble with grade book. I had to go down and give him a hand. My wife is making cake balls. Those things are delicious. Kind of excited about that. She bakes a cake and then she like crumbles it all up and mixes in a can of frosting, and then like takes these cake crumbs and mixes it with frosting, and then takes little spoonfuls and balls them up, and then dips it in chocolate. I can't eat enough of those. Alright, so here we've got all these lines. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of, like, if you've ever seen aluminum siding, it kind of overlaps. So each layer tucks under the layer above it. So what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm making that happen on the edge. Let me flip it the right side so you can see that happening. And then now, well, here's the thing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go the other way with it now. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm not going to do both sides of this building, because actually what I would want to do first is kind of put a sign on this and let people know what kind of building this is. But I can do this. So let's put the top edge of that building on there. And then what I'm going to do is, because these are tucked into the one below it, there'd be a little bit of shadow underneath each one, like at the top. So I'll do that. I'll add a little bit of shadow. Just like that. And you can see how that already adds some dimension, some depth. So again, I'm gonna build this one first, and I might put like sometimes aluminum siding has like there's like a cap on the corners, so I can do that too. Maybe I'll erase that. and put a little cap there. And just kind of think about where the shadows would be. Right? And there you have it. So those are the 3 techniques. That's how to build your buildings, how to build a building behind, and how to build it on the same plane. The 2 techniques for doing the sidewalk, and then how to add details to your building, like awnings or siding, stuff like that.